please go on with your point about the impact on supply chains and business.
Yeah, so it impacts the supply chains well beyond an Apple. This is the conversation happening in the boardrooms and C-suites as people try to figure out that diversification strategy. But, ironically, I mean, the timing couldn't have been any better for the follow-on point here, which is that, this entire story, I mean, we're talking about there are probably 100,000 travelers a week, plus or minus, that are going in and out of China from Western companies, particularly technology companies, whether it's the U.S. or Europe. And you think about what's happened over the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, it was probably like, well, we're hearing a little bit about this, whatever, let's go, we'll go do our travel. Last week, it's like, well, this is getting kind of serious. Then all of a sudden, everybody that we knew around here that was going to go back for Chinese New Year, they canceled. And then now the bid has flipped totally to the other side. Now we're looking at a possible, a government intervention here around this. So this is something that's built a lot of negative momentum over the last 10 days.
Yeah, and I wonder, next steps from here. Let's say, Kamran, that China loses 6 weeks worth of in-person business travel. People who were just about to go cancel, maybe you want to see how this plays out before you plan more travel. How much economic impact do you think that has for the first quarter, second quarter of the year, projects that maybe get delayed, or is that easy enough to make up?
Well, keep in mind, this is also the time of the Lunar New Year, which is the last few years has been quite a slow time with our companies that do business in China, where it seems like things are kind of fairly quiet for a week or two around the New Year. So this, I think, will exacerbate what could have otherwise also been a slow time regardless. But only time will tell. I mean, with the 2003 SARS epidemic, obviously saw almost a 2% reduction in quarter-on-quarter GDP growth there in China, and we'll see if that kind of thing can possibly happen here or not.
Yeah. Paul, I mean, the word that we just got from Eamon out of the White House is really just a step up from what's already been going on. The CDC is advising people not to go. Carrie Lam in Hong Kong has suspended travel permits to mainland China. I mean, we talk about U.S. executives going, but there are already a slew of Asian executives who can't get to areas of China, and that's been in place for days.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, you're going to see winners and losers in this. I mean, I hate to say it, for every one of these scenarios we see on a global basis, there are investor winners and investor losers. And the winners are going to be the Zooms of the world and the remote, communication platforms of the world, because people are going to have to, double down on that as a way to continue to run their businesses. The other winners will be people who provide in-home entertainment across the region, not just simply China, but across the region. Certainly not timed with anything, but ironically, in the last few weeks, Netflix has released Pandemic as one of their new shows. And so, that's going to be, that concept is going to flow through, whether it's Chinese-based in-home entertainment or it's across Asia and in other places. And then the places that are really going to get hurt are, as you've touched on, supply chain-related businesses, also consumer packaged goods, branded businesses and things like that require people to go out and engage on it, because people are going to hunker down until this blows over.
Well, the other impact on tech, by the way, this week is if the market continues to be volatile, you have a number of names that want IPO. The two that the tech folks I think are watching most closely are Casper and One Medical. And so if the market volatility affects those offerings in any way, that could maybe have disruptions further down in the tech cycle as well.
Indeed. And sort of the timing of it is just poetic in some ways, because phase one signing and the sense that you were going to start to see an immediate thaw in relations. China was open for business again, the ability for some financials to have broader freedom in their ownership structures. And then it completely offsets what we were looking for.
It's a setback for sure, yeah.
Arguably, though, it would have been worse had we not had phase one yet.
Sure.
And this could have shaken up a lot of things, perhaps who it looked like had advantage. Paul, I wonder, does this coronavirus concern, and we're seeing how far it's going, does it change the way you're looking at investing this year? I mean, and I mean that in the sense, does it bring forth any truths or ideas about the way that information or technology spreads its influence around the world?
Yeah, I would say it's too premature, at least certainly to affect something like an early stage venture firm like a foundation or the kind of things that we're looking at. We invest over a much longer sine wave. I think there's a second point here, which is when you actually weigh in and speak to some of the people that are medical professionals. A good friend of mine here, Dr. Jun Yun, is also a terrific investor, and he's kind of like getting people to understand, look, at the end of the day, it's basically a flu-like virus. Young, stronger people, normally healthy people, shouldn't be, affected in terms of a mortal risk. Certainly, much younger people, older people, people who are already sick, it's going to have an impact. But I think it's less about, it's going to make any changes on the investing environment. And then the other part, I think, is that this will, in fact, blow over, just as SARS did. These things kind of burn themselves out at some level. And so the good news is, at some level, I think Kamran touched on, it's happening during a holiday period already, and it's happening in January, right? If this had been, when everybody was expecting a big second half, and this was going to, have a bad impact over, say, a 6 or 8 week period, then I think it would be much more significant. I think there's time to make this up, depending on how broadly this impacts.